Quebec's economy is well positioned to begin a sustainable recovery in the second half of 2024 in conjunction with the decline in interest rate and inflation.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. That's Eric Girard, the finance minister, speaking in English today, explaining some of the provincial budget that was just announced. So the big number, I guess, the $11 billion deficit. And considering, I'm reading a note here from the Montreal Economic Institute suggesting that back in November, that's only 4 months ago, that projected deficit was only about $3 billion. So welcome to $11 billion as a deficit. And Quebec's debt, of course, goes up as a result of this as well. By the way, with respect to the economy growing, so the government is forecasting 0.6% for this year, 2024, and then 1.6% growth in the economy for next year. And obviously, we don't know where interest rates are going. We're assuming that between now and the end of this year, they may start to fall. Is that a realistic projection? I don't know, but that's what the minister was talking about. In addition, some of the other things that I'm seeing here, and I want to mention this again, because I will invariably get texts from someone who is a senior or disabled or both. You may have heard Rob Lurie mention there's an enhancement of up to $3,930, almost $4,000 a year in the retirement pension, and that's for approximately 77,000 seniors with disabilities. All right, so that's in this budget as well. But let me try to find a little bit more here, because on the line right now is Nicolas Gagnon. He's with the Quebec chapter of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Nicolas, you've had a chance to take a look at the budget so far. Give me your reaction. What are you seeing?
Yes, I was able to take a look to the budget, and all I have to say is really kind of a question. How can the government pretend that this budget is responsible while they deliver record deficit, more spending, and basically no relief for taxpayers? It's hard to believe that this is responsible to actually bring a deficit up to $11 billion, $8 billion more than what was planned previously during the fall economic update and also during the last budget from the Quebec government. So to see that there is basically no plan whatsoever to go back to a balanced budget is definitely something that is making us very much afraid about what the government is really planning in that case, because all they're basically saying is that we will go back to a balanced budget thanks to the growth the growth of the economy. But as like you just said, the economy is not really going to show any interesting growth whatsoever, at least not for the current year. So they're basically saying that if we get more revenues, we'll be able to balance the budget. But that is not the problem. The real problem with the current government is the spending. If you look at the spending, for example, we have over $157 billion in spending versus $150 billion in revenues. The truth is, when you look at the growth of the spending overall, it has increased twice more rapidly than the revenues of the government. So really, the government should ask themselves right now, where can we cut those expenses? Because clearly this is unsustainable. Over the next 5 years, we will add over $32 billion in deficit. There is no return to balanced budget whatsoever in this current decade. And so this is very alarming, and I believe that this is one of the most irresponsible budget that we could end up with today.
So I will just point out, and I know people have made light of this before because it seems to be brought up and nothing gets done about it, pointing out here that Premier Legault campaigned, right, back in 2018 on the elimination of public civil service jobs, right? I think he said he was going to eliminate 5,000, but that was back in 2018. Right now, the government has almost 10,000 more civil servants than when it took office. So, when people talk about where can we cut, the government on the one hand says, well, we're trying not to cut, but they don't even want to cut within their own public service. I mean, that would seem to me to be a huge problem here.
Yes, and the 10,000 people that you mentioned are actually those that were added to the different ministries of the government. When you look at the whole number, ever since Legault took office in 2018, they have added over 72,000 public servants in the different public structure in Quebec, including the healthcare system and the education system. And if you look also to the projection, they're planning to increase by 7,800 more bureaucrats by the next budget. That means that overall, since Legault will have taken office at the next budget, he will have added over 80,000 bureaucrats in Quebec. And as you said, he was actually supposed to reduce that number by 5,000 as he promised in 2018. And basically, they're saying that this actually happened. But the problem is they have eliminated some of those positions at the very beginning of their mandate, but they have replaced those positions by adding more bureaucrats overall. So they're basically playing with numbers. That's my point here. So yes, there's definitely room for that. However, when you look at how they have negotiated with the different unions from the public service, they have not tried at any single time to actually defend taxpayers, to defend the burden that will be transferred to them with all those concessions that they made to the unions. So on one side, yes, they're increasing the bureaucracy, but they're also increasing their paycheck, but they're not doing anything for taxpayers that are actually paying for the whole thing. So that is a very big part of the budget that we have a hard time to understand. How can this growth be sustainable? And the answer is well, it is not.
So one of the other notes here, Nicolas, is this idea of, I think you talked about expenditures, right? At a time when we would think a government has to kind of pull back. The note says they've increased expenditures by 48% in 6 years. Is there anything in this budget, because we were all worried that taxes might go up despite what the minister had said, which was no, don't plan on it. Where are they getting extra money from here from what you've seen?
Well, that's the big problem, is that we don't know for sure. What they're saying is that we will get more money thanks to the economic growth over the next years. We'll be able to balance the budget, and thanks to having a growing economy, so that will basically increase the revenue of the government. That's how they're planning to balance the budget altogether. But you cannot really make those kind of projections, certainly not in a time like this one, like this year, where we're facing the beginning of a recession. So it's very hard to see where they will find that money. What we hope for sure is that they will not use the very simple way for many governments is simply to increase the fiscal burden. The last thing that we want from them is to increase taxes on income, or to do exactly the opposite of what they did at the last budget, for example. So we don't want that. What they should do is literally to reduce their spending. They should actually look at the bureaucracy, look at their different subsidies that they give to Nordvolt and all of those foreign companies, and also look at how they can actually put an end to this tradition of sending taxpayers' money to companies like they're doing so many times. But it's not just that. They should also address the whole situation regarding the government and really have a real exercise, a real attempt to review all of those spending altogether. Actually, in the budget, they mentioned that. They mentioned that they want to start as soon as this spring 2024. They want to do a revision of all the spendings of the different ministries of the government. But they have said that over 6 times over the last 6 years. So we're really wondering if they're serious about it or not. But if they do, then we certainly know where they should start, and we certainly hope that they will invite us so that we can help them do the proper things and reduce the spending.
So let me ask you, after all this, and again, there's still a lot to take in, have you seen anything in this budget that is good, that you do like, that you think is positive?
I would say something that is interesting altogether is that, for example, they are reducing the subsidy for electric vehicles, for example. They said that they would be cutting this subsidy program progressively. That is still in the cards. Like I mentioned, they are also talking about putting into place a committee that will be responsible for the revision of all the public spending of the government. So that is interesting, because we certainly hope that they will be able to find some ways of cutting their spending that way. That's exactly what Paul Martin did at the federal government at the beginning of the 2000s, and that's also what Stephen Harper did when he was in office in 2009. So we expect that this attempt will be very fruitful for the Quebec government. But altogether, there's not much good news. There's more spending, there's more deficit, there's more debt, there's an increase of the ratio between the debt to GDP ratio, and there's really no relief for taxpayers, to the contrary of what we have seen in Ontario, or at least in Manitoba, Newfoundland, and what we expect in Ontario. There is no tax relief, for example, for car drivers and for any taxpayers whatsoever. So sadly, I would love to say that there is actually some good news. You have mentioned the one for the disabled elders at the very beginning. So those are things that are very interesting, but overall, the big picture is not really positive.
All right. Nicolas Gagnon from the Quebec chapter of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Thanks so much, Nicolas. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome, sir. Have a good day.
You too.